Welcome back to Roundtail Restoration, everybody. My name's Chris. Here I've got the gas tank out of my 1964 Triumph TR4, fuel sender that goes in that gas tank, the gas gauge itself, power supply, some various wires. I've got a resistor box back here that I can do various resistors. We used to call them decade boxes. What I'm going to do is check to make sure that the fuel sender works, check to make sure that the gauge indicates accurately. So we'll get into a little bit of an alignment of that. I'll show you how you do that, and just generally how all this stuff kind of works. This is part of the gauge refurbishment process. I have not refurbished this gauge yet, so I'll probably want to revisit this after I take it all apart and do all that kind of stuff. But I just kind of want to do proof of concept, see if we can teach ourselves some stuff, and see if we can get this thing to make sure that it's going to indicate accurately going down the road. So, thanks for watching. Let's get it sorted. So I mentioned the power supply here. What the power supply is going to do, obviously, is supply a voltage to the circuit here, and I'm going to wire this up as if it were in the car. Now your battery voltage coming out of your battery is 12 volts. There's a voltage regulator for the gas gauge and the temperature gauge that regulate that 12 volts down to 10 volts and hold it there, and then that 10 volts is supplied via the various transmitter. In this particular case, it's a fuel sender. In the temperature case, it's one of those little temperature transmitters, and then varies that resistance of those two transmitters, and then that supplies the equivalent voltage of the final voltage to the gauge and causes it to deflect. So you can do this with a car battery if you have your voltage regulator out of your car. I'm lucky enough to have a bench supply here, so I'm going to set that up. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it says 10 volts, so I don't have to worry about that because I can set this wherever I want. And we're going to essentially wire this up, like I had mentioned, just like it was in the car. So coming out of my positive side of my power supply, I'm going to go into the positive, or the portion of my fuel gauge there, the sender that I want to connect up to. So that center tang right there, that spade connector. Then we're going to come out of that connector into the ground, out of that ground into one side of the gauge. So now I've got that one side of the gauge connected there. And then finally, we're going to get back to the power supply. So we're going to go through and hook up the negative side of the power supply. So again, so out of the positive, into the positive of the sender, out of the negative, into one side of the gauge, through the gauge, and back to return to the power supply. So really all this is a piece of wire with a resistor in it, and that resistor is this fuel sender, and another resistor really in it, that's this temperature gauge. This resistor is variable, this resistor is not. So once I turn this on, depending on where this sets up, either it's completely full of fuel like it would be if it was like this, or completely empty of fuel, or it would be like that, should directly correlate to a deflection or not on the gauge. So we're going to go ahead, right now it's would be empty, so we're going to go ahead and turn the power supply on to do the output, and I'll zoom in on the gauge here so you can see what the gauge does. All right, power supply on. These gauges do not respond very quickly. They're just by their design, they're slow. There's a little wrap of wire in there that needs to heat up, so they're not very quick to respond. But you should be able to see right now that it is coming off the very, very bottom. So now we'll take the fuel sender, and I'm going to make it and simulate it like I've got some gas in it. So we'll go to, like, I don't know, half a tank. And you see now that the fuel gauge is coming up. We'll go all the way to a full tank. You can see it's coming up a little bit more rapidly, sending that current through this variable resistor of the sending unit into the fuel gauge, which has also got kind of a resistor in it, and it's showing that it's filling up. So I'm drawing about a 1/10 of an amp now. So that wire is in there heating up and causing this bimetallic movement in there to deflect and show me about a half a tank now on its way to a full tank of gas. So I'll go back down, and you'll see the fuel gauge essentially start to come back down. So now I know that the sender works, I know that the fuel gauge works, but now I need to determine if the fuel gauge is accurate or not. And for that, I have to have known resistances that I could apply to the fuel gauge. And there's little calibration dots on there, and I'll show you that. But that's why I have that decade box, because that's going to give me my values of resistances. So we'll take the fuel tank sender, fuel level sender out of the circuit here, and we'll put this decade box in the circuit here, and I'll show you how this works. So with a lot of this stuff, I'm not on my own here. I'm standing on the shoulders of others. So this is the Gentleman's Guide to Classic Smith's Automotive Gauges. This is part 1, which is the gauges themselves. Part 2 is the sending units. If you type in this Gentleman's Guide, you'll be able to find these. Obviously, I printed them out, but the author here is a Mr. Alex Miller. So thank you, Mr. Miller, for producing these. I don't know how old they are. Looks like it's out of New Zealand is his email. So that's kind of cool. International flavor here. But there's all sorts of good information here. It goes into theory, describes everything. But what I'm looking for and what I'm focusing on is the resistance, the known resistance values to look at the calibration marks that are built into the gauge. So this provides for all the different types of gauges you have here. This table provides that, and I'll explain it. So that's why I've got this resistance box here. I picked this up at Amazon. It's obviously made in China. It's not real high quality, but believe it or not, I tested it, and it's within about 1/10 of an ohm of where I want my values. This is a 0 to 1,000, well 9,999.9, I guess you could go to. So I'll show you here this gauge. So close up of the fuel gauge here. This is obviously all put together. I'm going to go ahead and disassemble this partially a little bit so I can show you some stuff on the face, and then we'll get back into it. It's kind of hasn't been taken apart, or I don't know how long, if ever. So the thing's kind of gunked up right now. So we'll be careful with it, take it apart, and then I'll show you some important features. All right, so the camera's having a little bit of trouble focusing, but I should be able to get my point across here. So you can see 2 little dots right there, 2 little dots over here under the F, and then the slash near the half a tank level. That's your calibration marks. So when I apply that 10 volts, and then use the resistances that I have in that document that I showed you, and I put in, say, 240 ohms, that 240 ohms should correspond to the low scale. So when I put 240 ohms in there, in other words, a lot of resistance, right, to limit the amount of current flowing through this thing, it's only going to deflect a little bit. But it should be, the needle should point in between those two dots. When I do the middle one, which is about 68 ohms, it should be within that flat line there. And then finally, when I do the high side, only 20 ohms, it should be just about full, a little bit over full. That's what I'm going to do, but I want to show you the inside of this more and kind of show you what I'm actually doing to cause the thing to deflect. And that's going to make me take this apart a little bit more. So again, I'm going to go off camera here real quick, do that, make sure I try not to break anything, and then come back and show you. All right, so this is kind of like the business end or the guts of the gauge. So you've got the needle pointer right here, and then that's attached intricately to some bimetallic strips, and there's a coil of wire that runs around that bimetallic strip. If you can see, it's like fabric. Now this stuff is really thin. Assuming it's very fragile, you need to be careful. But what happens is as that current comes through this meter, the amount of current is controlled by the resistance of the sender, or in my case, the decade box here. And that's going to allow more or less current to flow through this wire. Well, as that current flows through, it's going to heat up these bimetallic strips. And because of the way that needle is balanced on there, as that bimetallic strip heats up, it's going to curve, and that curve will cause deflection on the meter. So the more current, the warmer it gets, the more deflection you're going to get, and that needle will tend to swing towards the F side or towards the full side. Now again, this is pretty intricate in here. It's pretty fragile. You don't want to mess with it. These wires, if you break a wire, then that's pretty much it. One other thing I'll point out is these metal plates right here. Those are essentially how we're going to adjust it. So it's probably, again, difficult to see, but there's a little rivet here and a little rivet here, and there's an oval cutout right underneath those rivets, and that essentially allows you to adjust. So we would stick a special tool when you come in from the back, and you can twist that, and that'll cause those bimetallic strips to be in a different spot than they are now, and then that's going to allow you to overall adjust the gauge. Now, because both sides are connected via the bimetallic strip, you adjust one, you're going to have to adjust the other, right? These are concurrent adjustments. but that's kind of how this thing works. So we're going to put this back together carefully, get it most of the way assembled, partially assembled, so that I can at least get deflection, get the needle looking on the dots and all that kind of stuff. And I'll show you what it looks like when we start to actually put the current in here and we get some movement. Before we get into it much further, I'll talk about adjustment here. You can see these two little holes back here, and if I catch the light right and show you kind of close up here, you might be able to see that there's slots in those holes. That's where your adjustment points are. Your gauge, if it's not been touched at all, might even have little cork plugs in there, but not mine. So I took a bolt here and I ground down the tip of it, the end of it, to essentially be a little key to fit in that slot. A lot of stuff that I read is don't use a flathead screwdriver, and I think what it is because that metal is so thin and the flathead screwdriver won't fill that whole space, and as you go to turn it, it might give you enough resistance where you'll bend the edge of that metal plate that's on the inside that I showed you. So I just took a grinding wheel and a Dremel and just kind of made this to fit. And those essentially will go in there and go in those slots, and then you can turn it, and that turning will deflect the meter based on where it is when your resistance. All right, so we'll get this all hooked up and we'll get to see what it looks like. So what we'll do now is hook up the decade box and the power supply and all that stuff to the meter. But let's get this thing wired up so we'll come out of the positive side of the power supply into one side of the decade box, out of that side of the decade box, into one side of the meter or the gauge. And then this is the black here is the return to the power supply. We'll hook that up to the other side of the gauge. When I turn the power supply on, it'll start to deflect. So right now I'm going to set it up for 20 ohms. So this is the 10s ohm here. I've already got it set up. We're going to turn the power supply on. You're going to see the needle deflect. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave it there for probably a good 2, 3, 4 minutes to let that thing fully heat up and get it all up to temperature and whatever, let it do whatever motion it's going to do. Be done with it, and then I'll look in and see and look at the adjustment. Turn the power supply on. You can see it starting to come up, and we'll let it go. And I'll be back when it's stabilized. All right, so it's been several minutes and it looks like it's just a bit high. So we're gonna go ahead and adjust it and make that meter movement tilt down a little bit, which will tend to bring the indication down. So I wonder if I can do this without messing up my electrical connection here. All right, probably block that off of you, but now that's right in the middle. So now I want to go to 6/8 ohms, which is going to bring it down a little bit. So I just mentioned I was going to go to 68 ohms, and I did, but I'm going to go down all the way down to 240 because I'm going to align the bottom, and then because there's no check here, there's no alignment for the middle one, so this check is not anything more than just a check. So I'm going to dial up 240 ohms in here, which will bring me down near the empty sign, and then I'll align from that. So now you'll notice we're only looking at about 0.03 amps, and looking at we're about an eighth of a tank indicated, which is quite a bit off. So hopefully now we're just going to go back and forth. I'm not sure that I have an eighth of a tank worth of adjustment on that little thing, but again, I'll try it here. Get the tool in there, get my wrench. Wrong way. No, I do have an eighth of a tank of adjustment. All right, so now that indicates, so now we're going to go back to 20 ohms, and again, let the thing warm up, let it stabilize, and check it again. That's essentially it. Go up to the high, adjust, go down to the low, adjust. Since they're, they play with each other because it's across the same two pairs of bimetallic strips, you're going to have to go back and forth and bounce around and all that kind of stuff. I'll keep doing that and I'll come back. Hopefully I'll show you and it'll be aligned. So here we are at 20 ohms. And if anything, it's just maybe a touch high, but not too bad. run it down to 240 ohms. You'll have to take my word for it that it's pretty much right there as well. But now we'll try 68 ohms, which is the one right in the middle here. We haven't tried that yet, and see how that lines up. One thing I also checked is that at all of my particular resistance values, I was running the same amount of current. That tells me that I'm not having variations right in the resistances, and the box is holding steady, the power supply is holding steady. If you remember, the resistance is 20 ohms, gives me a full scale deflection. 68 ohms is about halfway, but then 240 ohms is almost empty. So there's a big disparity in the amount of resistance difference it takes from the upper end of the scale from the lower end of the scale. If you look at the gauge itself, you can see that the physical distance between empty and 1/4 is bigger than the physical difference between full and 3/4. So that the gauge face itself is kind of calibrated to take that into account and try to account for some of that nonlinearity and how the gauge behaves. I don't think it really translates, into how the car operates when you're driving. I don't think you see it change differently because the gauge face is kind of accounting for that. But now looking at halfway, I am just on the very tippy top of that middle hash mark. So I think that we're going to call this good, at least for now. I'm still going to take this thing apart and refurb it like I mentioned, right? So I'm going to want to do this again and double check my values, because I'm going to be messing with stuff, and who knows, I might throw off the alignment of the bimetallic strips when I try to take this thing all apart again. Not too difficult to do. This Decade box is only about 20 bucks. Kind of, a nice geeky toy to have anyway. Obviously the power supplies are not incredibly cheap, but again, I think I've recommended that if you're doing this kind of work on these old cars, that you have one, because it's more convenient than using a car battery. And all the wires and all that kind of stuff. But again, coming from total restoration, understanding how all this stuff works, I think it's pretty cool to kind of learn and see how this old school stuff works. And 60 years old this gauge is. And it still works, and it is alignable and calibratable. So that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Cheers.